The Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, Michael Masiapato, has officially unveiled the agency's comprehensive operational plan ahead of the busy Easter holiday period. This comes as authorities anticipate a significant surge in travel across the country's ports of entry, with thousands of people expected to move to and from neighboring countries. According to Masiapato, the Border Management Authority has intensified its state of readiness to manage the increased traffic efficiently while maintaining strict security measures.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Masiapato. I think first and foremost, let's talk about the decision to extend operating hours at the border posts because of obviously the numbers we're anticipating. Let's talk a little bit of the numbers actually first. What did we see last year and the decision as well to pick some of those borders to operate for 24 hours?
Yeah, no, thank you, Veronica. Maybe let's start by saying, yes, indeed, as we have said, you see, Easter operation is more complex, particularly because everything converges on one weekend. On that basis, if you were to check, Thursday, that is just on Easter, I would say, Eve, there's a lot of people that will want to cross through and ultimately be able to be with their families on Easter itself. So on that basis, it becomes very much hectic. But similarly, if you look at the return, it becomes, Easter Monday. Everybody congests on that day, particularly because the following day, they will then have to be at work. So if you were to look at those two aspects, you get to realize that it is very much complicated. So it is for that reason why in this particular ports that normally will then close at around 10 and others will close at around 12, on those particular 2 days, we had to push them to operate on a 24-hour basis, and that is the rationale. We need to be able to deal with the volumes that will come through. So comparatively, last year, we did over 1 million just in the 10 days. So we were averaging around 25,000 people to around 30,000 people in a day. So on that basis, we're anticipating that the numbers will be at that range, and on that basis, we must be able to process them and make sure that before we get into the morning on Good Friday, everybody's out. And once again, before we get into a Tuesday, on Easter Monday, everybody's back.
Right, and of course, the big numbers will be coming from our ports of entry, such as Beitbridge, Limpopo. Talk to us a little bit about the operations and the resources that will be allocated to those busy borders. You said in the briefing when we were speaking about Beitbridge is that it's not just a port of entry between Zimbabwe and South Africa. It's ultimately an entry to Africa. It's a corridor to Africa, if you will. We also spoke about the fact that a lot of the big numbers we'll be seeing are churchgoers coming into South Africa, but also going out of the country to those various churches?
Yeah, no, yes, indeed. I mean, Beitbridge is one of those critical ports, as we said. It stands as the key, gateway into the continent. And on that basis, there's a lot of travelers throughout the continent. So on that basis, for us to be ready to deal with the numbers, what we have actually done, for example, we have set up a number of additional processing areas where we are able to process the people. For instance, we do have a Manyeka bypass. You are there yourself, you've seen it. So that is the area where we're going to process people with small vehicles, outside the port. So basically, the people will be passing through the port, go to Manyeka bypass, and that is where we're going to process them. So we'll activate that for exit during the hype in terms of exit, but we'll also activate that for the return to be able to process the people. So on that basis, as we said, all of the officers for that particular port will be all on duty. Nobody will be on rest days to make sure that we're able to deal with the people. Similarly, we'll also have some technicians, on the ground. In case we have any possible system glitch, they will be able to deal with whatever that happens to make sure that our systems are up and running. So in terms of other stakeholders, SAPS will be on the ground, SANDF will be on the ground. As we have said, tourism monitors will be on the ground to help us to make sure that queues inside the port are well directed from immigration area to port health to environment and to agriculture so that there is no any confusion. But additionally, we do have, as we said, social workers to make sure that in cases of children, vulnerable people, we are able to take care of them and make sure that they are taken to place of safety and they are properly taken care of. So from where we are sitting, our planning is in par across all the various ports.
But the reality is, at the same time, Commissioner, the BMA is operating at a 75% shortfall. There is still a need for not only boots on the ground, but resources as well. I know technology has been a big help. You told us today that 4 drones, but I mean, this is over 71 ports of entry.
Yeah, you see, when it comes to the issue of resources for the BMA, I think it is well articulated, kind of well published. We have reported in the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs a number of times, demonstrating that we are definitely undercapacitated, both in terms of human resources, but also even in terms of your ICT, as well as other technologies that are critical in as far as border management is concerned. But what gives us confidence is that the country and, I will say the president in particular, had actually emphasized that he is very much, intending to make sure that we are capacitated. Hence, you have seen the first move. The first move is the 900 million allocated to the BMA over the medium term to bring over 700 individuals into the BMA. So we consider that to be the first move towards capacitating the organization. We did have some bit of money we got from CARA, around 50 million. We will use it to augment our tools of trade, including technology as well as other instruments that we need to do this work. We are very much hopeful that we will be able to get there.
And very quickly, Commissioner, in regards to also the warning to travellers, of course, not to infringe on any of the laws in the country, there's also a very stern warning that you've given to officials from the BMA.
The main issue is, remember, if the officials actually follow through channels, if the officials come through to the port to be processed officially by the requisite officials and not necessarily get stifled into some corners or anything like that, collectively, we will be able to deal with corruption. So we want to warn everybody. There will be scouters outside port who will come to you and say, by the way, you give me 200, I will process you fast and all of that. So once people fall into those things, then they are perpetuating corrupt activities. We want everybody to follow through the protocols, come through to port, go through the officials. Everybody has a name tag. Should anybody start to talk things that are outside the framework, they must report them and we'll deal with them decisively. And that is the message in terms of the travelers.
And it's not just rhetoric. We understand as well there's a new system in place in terms of stamps that have been put into the passport. Talk to us a little bit about that technology and how that system works.
So what we basically did, remember we inherited basic stamps, from the Department of Home Affairs when we transitioned. And those stamps, you could easily buy them from any bookshop or any place. And on that basis, people will literally use those stamps to stamp people's passports illegally. And when they're in the country, it looks like they're in the country legally. So we dealt with that by introducing new stamps, highly security-based, and they can be duplicated. The kind of ink that we use is exclusively provided for by government printing works. You can't get it anywhere. So the most critical part, that stamp actually has a unique number linked to a particular immigration officer. So they can't exchange stamps. Everybody has their own stamp. They put it in their own safe and take care of it. Meaning, should any passport be stamped illegally, and we find an individual in the country illegally with an illegally stamped passport, that number will link back to that official and we will definitely deal with that official. Once we are able to prove that that person had consciously stamped that passport illegally and ultimately allowed the person to enter the country. Hence, we are talking about 88 people as we speak. That actually 50 had been fired already, 38 are going through the process. These are how decisive we deal with these issues because we maintain BMA as a zero-tolerance corruption authority.
Well, thank you very much for that, Commissioner Michael Masiapato.
Additional personnel will be deployed at key border posts, and advanced monitoring systems will be used to ensure smoother processing of legitimate travelers. At the same time, Masiapato issued a strong warning to undocumented individuals, emphasizing that authorities will be on high alert for any illegal crossings. He stressed that law enforcement teams are fully prepared to detect, intercept, and act against anyone attempting to enter or exit the country unlawfully during this high-traffic period. He reiterated that while the agency aims to facilitate safe and efficient travel for all lawful passengers, it will not tolerate violations of immigration laws. Travelers have been urged to ensure that their documentation is in order to avoid delays or legal consequences. The Easter period remains one of the busiest travel seasons, and officials are calling for cooperation from the public to ensure that border operations run smoothly and securely.